Oh, hey, it's good to see you again. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of See It Again Cinema. Tonight's featured film is The Sandlot. Came out in 1993, and this film was selected by our guest, Jocelyn.
Hey.
So, Jocelyn, I have only seen this movie in its entirety maybe once or twice, and it was back in middle school in the 90s.
Wow. Okay.
And it sounds like, this film you've seen more times than that.
Yeah, way more.
Okay. So, tell me, why did you choose to rewatch this film tonight?
Well, I love The Sandlot. There's so many great things, so many great themes about the movie. I mean, of course, we can talk about honesty and integrity, but we can also just talk about, like baseball and the role that baseball plays in uniting communities. The movie, of course, there is a Black character. And so I know that for my family, we were huge Kansas City Monarchs fans from like the Negro Leagues. And so this movie just hits so many different things from my life, from my family, from like my culture. And so to me, this movie is quintessential childhood memory. Like it's a core memory.
How old were you when you first saw this film?
Oh, goodness. I was probably 11, and I think it was in the summertime. I just remember it being really hot outside, and we just would watch it multiple times on VHS. Like, we would rewind it and start it all over again. And it was me and my cousins, and we would just sit in my family's home and just watch it over and over and over again. We used to have sleepovers, and so one of us would go to Blockbuster and go pick out a movie, and that's the movie that we watched at their home. And so that just became the movie that we just always watched.
Now, I know this film was set in the early 1960s. When I first saw it, it seemed more like it was 1950s to me.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But it seems like it was right at before there was a certain loss of innocence for people of that age in the 1960s. This film came out 30 years ago. That is how much time has elapsed since the early 60s to when the movie first came out.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
What are you curious about as far as how the film plays today versus the early 90s?
Oh, wow. Number one, does it still feel like that nostalgic thing? And so for me, I think even though I wasn't alive in the 60s, it still felt very nostalgic watching it. Of course, I feel like I can remember and quote every line from the movie. And so it'll be interesting to see how my memory holds up over, the last, 30 years.
Did you play baseball or softball growing up?
Okay, so I played softball. I think the real question you should ask is, was I good at softball?
Were you good at softball?
Okay, they let me stand in the right field, because...
Oh, that's where I played too.
Really?
Yeah, right. And I was the coach's son. Gotta play right field. I felt like, I was like, yeah, nothing ever happens here.
It was very safe. I was always afraid about something like coming at me and having to catch it, and all of the pressure that was on me having to catch a ball in air. And that was really, that was not my strong suit. After a while, they were able to recruit another person to play on the team, because I was really only there so they would have a full team that semester. Mm-hmm. And so that they found another person to be able to play right field for me, and then I just marked where the ball went each time. So I can't say that I'm super athletic. Did I play softball? Yes. Was I good? Absolutely not.
Okay. Well, I'm curious in that, it definitely, as I remember it, other than the mom character played by Karen Allen, mm-hmm. and the lifeguard, Wendy Peppercorn.
Yeah.
I don't think there are a lot of female characters. I know a major conversation in pop culture these days is about representation in storytelling.
Sure.
And this idea, how do audiences identify seeing someone on the screen mm-hmm. who looks like them? And I'm curious about how this film still just connects with so many people, even though the majority of the audiences who watch it were not alive in the 60s. Mm-hmm. Maybe a majority have never actually played baseball, and maybe half the audience for this film are not boys, coming of age in the 1960s.
Yeah.
So I'm always interested in how a story is able to work and be effective at conveying emotions, even if the audience doesn't look like or doesn't share the experiences. Mm-hmm. So that's something I'm curious about.
So yes, there's not a lot of like female characters in this movie. I have male cousins, but they didn't watch the movie with us. This was all me and my girl cousins just hanging out, having slumber parties. So to be honest, the main reason why we watched it so many times were because of two characters.
Or two actors.
Two actors.
I bet it wouldn't matter what their character was. I bet something about, were these handsome young men?
When I was 11, yes. And so...
Which two? Or am I going to have to guess when I watch these?
Well, I can tell you now.
Don't tell me.
Okay.
So Jocelyn's not going to tell me which of the two characters or actors playing those characters she thought. Did you think they were attractive or fetching?
Yeah, I was 11. Yeah. So, my standards were, like Jonathan Taylor Thomas, so, that,
Yeah, the oldest sister and Mrs. Doubtfire, I really liked her.
I get that, yeah.
Now, I didn't see this movie when it first came out, although, like many people, fell in love with it watching it at home on VHS. And it would have been around the same time that Forrest Gump came out. And when I think about how both of those films depict the past of American culture and sports, and they use music from the time period to kind of really capture that vibe, I'm really curious, how many songs do I know now and know about the artists and even the names of the songs, where in the back, when you hear Green Onions by Booker T and the MGs.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how old you are. You're like, This is one of the grooviest songs ever.
It really is.
Are there any musical moments you're looking forward to seeing when you watch the film?
Man, okay. So there's a scene and they have some chew and they are at a carnival. And the song Tequila is playing, and it's not quiet. It is a very loud song in that scene. And so I'm excited to see that part again, because when I was a kid watching that scene, I learned the song Tequila from that movie, number one.
Oh, see, and I learned it from that Pee Wee Herman movie.
Oh, yeah.
He's dancing on the table.
Yeah. But then, so of course, when I got to high school, then, I was in pep band. And so that song, we played Tequila, we played Green Onions. And so to be able to, even though I hadn't seen that movie in like 3 or 4 years by that point, by the time I'm playing these songs in pep band, to be in a place to be able to emotionally have these ties to music from this movie that I loved for such a long time. It's great. And so, of course, the Drifters are in this movie as well. And so, I'm excited to just hear it and just take this walk down memory lane. So, or take this walk down Sandlot Lane.
Maybe you're excited to go around all the bases.
That's probably it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. It's time to begin and watch The Sandlot again. We'll catch you after the credits roll. Play ball. See it again, see it again. Cinema. 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 See it again, see it again. And then talk about it. And we're back. Wow. So, what'd you think of the film all these years later?
Number one, still so good. Number two, still so funny. Number three, I remembered a lot more of the lines than I thought I would. I'm sorry if I got on your nerves when I was quoting the movie, but it's so good. I mean, there's so many great one-liners.
You and I have watched a lot of movies together, and I've never heard you quote in unison so many lines before. So this was definitely, I was like, wow, this is a special film from that time period. Do you want to hear my guesses for which of the two actors were the ones you and your friends and cousins had the hots for? Maybe just you.
Okay.
Well, my guess
okay. Now,
is Benny is number one.
What makes you say Benny?
He's the most of the nine, seems the most grown up and like seems kind of like suave in a certain sense. He has a certain cachet. I mean, it ain't Squints. I mean, you know, watching that, you weren't drawn to Squints because like
well, he's
locked down. Yeah,
Wendy. You know, he was busy.
And my second guess is Kenny De Nunez.
Okay, those are really good guesses. I will say yes to some of it. Okay, so, I may have quoted this movie when I was doing my TED Talk because, of course, if you need to put on your PF flyers and, you know, take off and prepare to run. So, I mean, yes, Benny the Jet Rodriguez. Easy, yes. Okay, so... here's the thing. Depending on who was in the room, it would switch between Kenny and Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Good looking guy.
We were kids. Yeah. We were kids.
Yeah. Well, you know, childhood crushes. You know. What are some things that you noticed this time that maybe you didn't back in the day?
Yeah. So I think one thing that really stuck out to me at this phase and this place in life is the relationship between Smalls and his stepfather, and the work that it took to really kind of cultivate that relationship. When I saw that movie, I wasn't in a place where I even understood the concept of a step parent, didn't have one or anything like that. And so now being older in life and really being able to see and examine that relationship on this side of adulthood was very interesting because, you know, there was some strain there, and there was some uneasiness. There was some tension at times. You know, just even understanding what to call his stepdad. You know, was it Dad? Was it Bill? Was it, you know, and there was always that kind of like, I don't know if I should come in. You always look really kind of busy, but also understanding that, you know, he had a job and he was a businessman. And so he traveled a lot. And so just really understanding like the strain of that relationship there. And then of course the role of integrity, the role of honesty in the movie when it came to, you know, just having to admit that he did something, you know, and he didn't know who this person was. And if he was able to admit that he didn't know, you know, who Babe Ruth was earlier, you know, probably could have saved everybody a whole lot of time and energy. And so I think there was those two main things really kind of stuck out.
I was struck by the way that the adult world is depicted or omitted. This film would have been really overstuffed if we had somehow gotten glimpses into the home life of the other kids at the Sandlot.
Sure.
We don't know anything about their parents, you know, their religion, what their parents do. You know, there weren't any moments where like one character tried to make Smalls feel bad. Like, you know, you're not connecting with your stepdad. Well, at least you have a dad. You know, like and I think that that's interesting because maybe in everyone's life or as we're growing up, there are different windows of time where our peer group, our friends are so important that we almost don't question. We kind of tune out the outside world because we're just focused on spending time with our friends.
Sure.
And also, a lot of kids are probably like, what does your dad do? I don't know.
When you're talking about the friend group, one thing that kind of stuck out to me was understanding that that neighborhood was integrated. Like the pools were integrated, even though this was like early 60s, and a lot of that integration didn't really happen until, 65, right? 1965. And so understanding what the messaging behind that, even, like even at that time. And so understanding that, Babe Ruth comes out of the closet, and he's like talking to Benny, and he sees this card of Hank Aaron, and he's like, oh, hey, can I borrow that? And so I think another interesting thing was the representation of the Negro Leagues in the film, especially when Benny and Smalls go into James Earl Jones' character's home, after the dog chase, right after Hercules is chasing Benny throughout like the city, just knowing and understanding that there were these pennants that were around this room that were representative of this time in Black history and American history, and just being able to see that represented so clearly, I think that was really interesting and very well done.
Mm-hmm. I would have loved to have seen this film in a theater filled with families back in the day, just to see the crowd response, because I imagine anyone who saw this film in theaters had that great experience. When I think about why this film was possibly greenlit, I imagine the high concept was, it's Stand By Me, but happier, mixed with Field of Dreams. Stand By Me and a baseball team. I even saw some subtle nods to Goodfellas, which also has plays off of that good old time of the 1950s. The strong voiceover that contextualizes things.
Yeah.
And Yeah is like Tommy two times, the guy who's always saying everything two times. I need to go to the bathroom.
But then also there's the repetition of like the brother who also repeats everything, right? And so
yeah. So I think whoever, when I think about, I can't even, what was the name of the director? David Mickey Evans. I don't know what else he's done, but if this is the only movie he ever made, he made his mark. And I know the kid who played Hamilton, was in like The Big Green and some other Disney films. I don't know his name. I could look it up. But I think the reason I'm saying all this is I think it's remarkable that out of these 9 boys, these actors, none of them went on to become like a star. And then at the end, when each kid disappears, we might know, oh yeah, they're here doing this thing, or we never heard from them again. But we didn't really ever hear from the actors again. So it's almost to me like this film captured them in that moment of time.
Did you know that Benny the Jet Rodriguez, Mike Vitar, was actually in D2, like with Emilio Estevez?
I haven't seen D2 since middle school.
Ducks fly together, Sam.
Huh?
Ducks fly together. Ducks fly together.
Legends never die. So this film is 30 years old.
Yeah.
And I've never met anyone who has seen this film who doesn't love it and doesn't just think like, oh, that's a good movie.
Yeah.
After rewatching it, I would really question the humanity of anyone who could watch this film and say, I hate The Sandlot. Like, what happened to you growing up that like you would hate this movie? I mean, it's a delight. So I'm curious though. There are many delightful films made every year, but this film is now 30 years old. Or what can you attribute its staying power to?
I think some of the quotable lines honestly help it stay in my memory. So some of those lines are things that I still say, at certain points in my life. So whether I say, oh, you're killing me, Smalls.
That's the number one line from this film.
Yeah.
So many teachers and coaches. And anytime someone is just, you realize that they're ignorant about something that they should know something about.
Yeah.
You can drop the line, you're killing me, Smalls. You don't know what a s'more is. You don't know how to make a s'more.
Right. First you take the graham, then you put the chocolate on the graham, And then you roast the mallow.
Yeah, we actually made s'mores. We basically had to pause the movie after that treehouse scene and like, let's go make some s'mores. Yeah. So,
and then I have to finish the line. Okay,
yeah.
So then once the mallow is flaming, blow it out, add the graham, and then stuff.
I thought it was scarf.
That's stuff.
Stuff? Okay.
And that's how you make it. That's how you make it. That's how he's been making it for 30 years. It doesn't go wrong. The recipe is flawless. If you follow it to a T, I promise you will be Alton Brown in the kitchen. People will say, wow, this is the most amazing s'more I've ever had in my life. And you'll be like, thank you, Ham. He taught me.
Yeah, and he doesn't know it. The irony of him like, you hit like a girl. He doesn't know that s'mores are from the Girl Scouts of America.
It's true. It's true.
You s'more like a girl.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was great.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Outside of "You're Killing Me, Smalls," what is the most quotable line for you?
Let me think.
If you don't have any, I can just do all of the lines. Who wants to be a can't hack it, panty waist, who wears their mama's bra? Raise your hand. Oh, Wendy Peppercorn, my darling lover girl. When him is being the catcher, and he's like, all right, ready, 1, 2, 3. 3 strikes, you're going to be out. You're going to be out. Oh, is that your sister out in left field? You think I can date her? There's all sorts of lines like that. I mean, just all throughout, Like, you don't know who the Great Bambino is? Great Bambino is the Colossus of Clout. The Colossus of Clout. The Great Bambino.
I think that these are all great lines. I don't know how commonly they're quoted outside of people talking about the film, but that's okay. I'm not going to include my little comment there in the document. We kind of went all out making the s'more, hot dogs, and I don't endorse tobacco, but we had to get some Big League Chew.
Yeah.
You want to dip?
What's dip? That's what he said. Yeah. Oh, he goes, what's chew? What's chew?
Well, I'll tell you. And then we're going to go on a Gravitron. Or Trabant. No. Yeah. So.
And then that's when they play the song Tequila. See, we've come back. Yeah, we've come back.
So, any last words?
Yeah. Oh, goodness. Number one, the movie is still so good. It made me laugh. And, I mean, again, just so many different lessons about, like, character development. And, I mean, even just the empathy that Smalls shows once Hercules is being crushed by the fence. I mean, there's just so many good, heartwarming scenes where, he's using empathy. And he's like, you guys, come help me. And everyone is kind of, like, hesitant. But Benny is there. And he helps lift that fence off of the dog. I mean, there's just so many good things, so many good memories, so many like good lines, and good scenes. They really do like their transitions in that movie. And overall, I think it's a great movie. At some point, I look forward to being able to watch this movie with my godson, and being able to enjoy it and laugh along with him. And hopefully he thinks it's funny, and all of my other like nieces and nephews, that would just be so great. And so, so I just look forward to being able to share this movie with like other people. And I know that within my family, if I text them a line from this, I mean, they're going to come right back with like the next one, because it's such a staple in my family. So it was great to watch it again.
Well, all right. That'll do it for this episode of See It Again Cinema, where old movies make magical new memories. Jocelyn, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Sam.
And thanks for rewatching. See it again, see it again. Cinema, see it again, see it again. Hey, this is Jocelyn's first time having Big League Chew. Just grab a handful, put it in your mouth, and see.
Am I supposed to like ball it up or
just Just put it in your mouth and chew. A big old dip. I haven't had this stuff in years.
Yum.
Sitting in the dugout at 23 Club, our little league, this stuff was just like